Alrighty. Um, yeah, this was a interesting evening. I don't know exactly what the issues were. Um, but yeah, that was a long time. Basically, the longer you don't use Streamlabs, the worse it gets. So, good evening. Good evening, good evening, good evening. I just want to make sure that I'm good in the chat. It's like I'm kind of good in the chat here. You tell me you put a Bacardi now. Yeah, yeah, man. So we'll try and run through this as best we can. I'm gonna because of the technical issues. I'm kind of thrown off guard here, but the the initial the initial way that this was supposed to go was I was gonna have probably a couple guests on, but not only did Stream Labs crash, but Discord did too. So I don't know what's going on with this computer here. I think it's got to be software related because it hasn't had a problem until I tried to run Streamlabs and Discord together. I guess so. I'll have to work on that. I looked up some other issues. Apparently, it's common, but we'll go from there. But anyway, ShadowCast 35. So I'm Shadow Fox Infinite, Shadow Fox Prime, and who don't step in the game. Um, so my issue, or what I'm going to try to go through here, if you look at the background here, you'll see a plethora of logos, and there's a bunch of red going on to the point where the red reflected from my screen is getting on my face at this point. But the gist of the matter is that we're going to talk about Nintendo Switch Online today. So what some people are going to have some opinions regarding how that goes, but Lord help them because they might get their feelings hurt. Might be a couple of onions they don't agree with. Um, but some of this stuff won't be onions at all. It'll be cold hard truth, and I'll get you guys equipped or give you guys as much information as I can going forward. So generally speaking, the expectation for online gaming on consoles is spend $60 a year and you can talk to people online while you play against each other or play with each other or what have you. And that being the expectation, because, unfortunately, gamers are not going to think about network infrastructure when they're talking about an online service. They're thinking about, hey, how do I, basically do what any one person could do in each game and just say, hey, we're building a custom VoIP server for you and a custom online server for you so I can create a session and then you two guys can see each other peer to peer and then connect in your own local section against those two consoles talking to each other. But before I jump ahead of myself, I need to give a disclaimer first. And I need to read this disclaimer because I need to be very, very careful with the words I say here because I don't want anybody thinking that, this is going to be anything other than what it's supposed to be. So, here's my disclaimer. I completely understand that some features aren't available on Nintendo Switch Online compared to past Nintendo consoles and those of Sony and Microsoft. So that's understood. I understand that this upsets some people and they are quite vocal about it. What I'm about to discuss in this video in no way invalidates those complaints for those features. So with that out of the way, we'll talk about a lot of the conflations that happen when we're discussing online infrastructure for video game consoles because it's not anything complicated. It's just the fact that they wrap it in a name and they present this service to you in a way that it confuses a lot of people and a lot of people think that certain things are tied to certain things when they really aren't. Let me see if I can get my first thing together here. Oh, okay. Well, let's see. Jeffrey Burns, thank you for the donation. I appreciate it. We'll go from there. I would have this screen a little bit cleaner. I did not expect the Nintendo Switch Online logo to be so red. So it's a little bit messy there, but thank you. So yeah, we'll go to. Let me get to my first thing here, and that's gonna be little YouTube. And I would play the video, but I don't want it to get too crazy here. So the first thing I'm gonna do is excuse all the loud clicking too. For whatever reason, I can't really get that to stop because of my intro, and I'll explain that probably at a later date. But here we sit, and I'll all this good here. So all right, so now I'm good. Yeah, I appreciate everybody coming in. And more Bacardi jokes. Please give me more Bacardi jokes. Everybody coming in, give a like. And we'll go from there so more people can see the video. I really want to explain this to as many people as possible. And from what I understand, I think Player has just started a live stream right now, so I may be indirectly competing with him for some of his views right now. I don't want to cross the streams, if you will, pun intended. But I want to get what I'm about to say out as much as I can. So I'm looking at some of the before stuff that happened, because in the 30 minutes I was trying to get the stream together. So bear with me, guys, real quick. But okay, just making sure anything that of import that I didn't miss is basically people talking shit, telling me to hurry up and get on here. But yeah, so Streamlabs giving me an issue, so a couple of issues. Yeah, I said the struggles, but yeah, I understand. I'll say, so first things first, right? So you want to talk about Nintendo Switch Online? We can go around the horn. We can talk about all the different things that happen, or how the thing exists to begin with. But I've got a list of little items I'm gonna go over. Basically, how network as a service as a whole is comprised, right? So, what is this thing? How does it work? Because if you listen to some of the gaming press, or insert popular opinion here, it's this monstrous thing that everybody should avoid, right? Because it's so bad. And it's so bad that you almost never get disconnects, and the service is always up, which is something that PlayStation and Microsoft tend to have issues with on their consoles, but neither here nor there. So I'll go ahead and I got an echo going. I don't know what's going on with that, but so I'll go with the history of how this came to be, starting from way back in 2002. And back in 2002, Nintendo gave us an option because they knew that the online presence would be a thing in the upcoming 6th generation of consoles. And so their solution that they released was a 56K modem adapter and a high speed internet adapter, which is just a 10100. Connected to the high-speed serial port on the bottom of the GameCube. I may have one with me right now. I don't know if I do or not. But what does this guy have? Nope, don't have it. But at least you know where the port goes. It goes right here in this little port right here. So right in there. But anyways, this magical adapter would allow you to connect online to whatever goods and services were available inside of a game. Then at the time, there was no central online service that the GameCube connected to. So if you were to play online service such as Fantasy Star Online, which was one of the online games for that platform, you would buy that game. That game will have its own online key or what have you that you would have to register with Sega servers. And then when you play the game, you sign in the Sega servers and you play online on that game. So when Nintendo's roundabout way was making the rounds, there were some complaints because Xbox Live had set, kind of a precedent in the same year when Xbox Live came out. So those that experience, since Xbox Live was kind of already seen as an experience to be on the console before they were even ready. It was an integral part of the OS itself. It was kind of unfair to compare Xbox Live to anything going on PlayStation 2 or GameCube at the time, because they weren't originally designed to do any of that. And then you add, these add-ons to it. That means that, not every game could actively use it. And the OS itself wasn't built for anything like that. It was a stark difference between GameCube and PS2 versus PS3 and Wii, which had internet connectivity built into the forefront of how the OS worked. So that was a big advantage for Xbox from 2002 to 2004 until it, died or what have you. And at the turn of the next console generation, which started in 2005 because the 360 started a year early. Yes, believe it or not all consoles start generations at the same time. And whichever console comes out first, they start the next generation. So the 7th generation of consoles started in 2005, kind of like the 9th generation of consoles started in 2017. That's gonna piss certain people off, but they'll have to fucking deal with it. Yeah, so after that generation was done, Nintendo decided to partner with GameSpy in 2005. I wish I can kind of throw the articles up here. I'm not gonna be as fast as that as some other people I see online. They just pull up the internet and just scroll through the internet or what have you. But they partnered with GameSpy in May of 2005 for basically matchmaking, but also hosting servers for the new online service that Nintendo was going to be coming up with, which would be for the Wii console. In addition to the Wii console, they will also support their mobile console then at the time, which was the Nintendo DS. So that service together was called the Nintendo Wi-Fi Connection. For some of y'all may remember that, but that was a collection of both online infrastructure and Wi-Fi hotspots that Nintendo had purchased with popular businesses such as, insert hotel here, McDonald's, Office Depot, whatever. There would be like different hotspots for you to connect, and you would get free internet to be able to connect and get different items or what have you. And that continued later on the 3DS with functions such as Spot Pass, where you go to a certain location and there's different alternate reality games you can play, because if you go there you get a different item in certain games that you would play built into the 3DS. But anyway, after that point, Nintendo needed a way to be able to host stuff on these servers they're going to have with GameSpy. And while GameSpy had servers, the storage on those servers is not something that you want to do. You want on your infrastructure, you want all your compute nodes to do nothing but computing, and all your storage to be in a SAN or another type of location where all your data is going to be housed. So if you think of it, it's like a room or several buildings full of computers, and your storage may be in that same area, but it's completely separate. And so what's happening now in the way things are moving forward, and this is how Nintendo was ahead of the times then. Nintendo invested in cloud storage then at the time. That was Amazon S3 then at the time. Or I think it was actually E3 buckets then at the time. But so they invested in that, and as well as they invested in CloudFront for Nintendo.com to redo the Nintendo website. So everything was overhauled. So the Nintendo Wi-Fi connection was basically an amalgamation of all kind of different services that Nintendo was rolling together. So they redid Nintendo.com. They redid your online service, where they created a brand new online service for both the DS and the Wii to connect to. And there's the Wii Connect 24 service, which is a separate server that gave you updates and whatever kind of things anytime during the night. Whenever the update server managed to key on your console and say, hey, you're allowed to receive this, then your console would start blinking, give that notable cue. That was actually part of the marketing when the console was first released. And then you would know that an update was pinned into your system, or some new type of content is there when you turn the Wii on. But for that to happen, there had to be a place where all this data was being housed, and that's why Nintendo partnered with Amazon then at the time. And that was kind of a pioneer move then at the time. Sony eventually followed for the PlayStation Network. They would eventually get a deal with Amazon and do S3 with them as well. But their servers got hacked for some reason. Somehow somebody compromised one of the buckets and got all the data from it, and you had one of those gaming wide scandals of data being lost and passwords being on the internet, what have you. So darknet, whatever you want to call it at the time. So that was a big issue, because that was the first real video game breach of data that you could really attest to at the time. So Nintendo saw this, and obviously they updated their security and whatnot. Signed different contracts and SLAs with Amazon to make sure all their data is encrypted well, and also the design of their network made sure everything was separate. So if you ever wonder why everything was difficult on Wii and DS when you first got your console online, that was planned. It wasn't something that was, how can I say this, that they didn't think about, and therefore you're upset because it's not as easy as it is on Xbox and you just sign in with your live account. They specifically made the console, your ID, a game ticket, updates, and anything public or private completely separate, to include your data for your purchases and your account tied to any amount of money that you had in your online wallet for Wii Shop then at the time, or DS Shop. Because then at that time, if someone compromised your account on Xbox Live or PlayStation Network or anything like that, not only did they have your account and they can go online and pretend to be you, they also have access to any money or any stored credit card accounts that you had in your name, because all it was tied to one string that represented your account. Nintendo saw this. They foresaw this being an issue, so they split everything up. So even if somebody got your Nintendo ID or access to your console, or they were able to somehow hack into Wii Shop, they couldn't get access to your money, or whatever they got, they couldn't get the other pieces. So that was intentional, and that was a lot of frustration to other people. They're like, oh, we have these friend codes, and then there are different friend codes for each game, and each console has a different console ID, and we can't really talk. There's no way for me to, if I try to add a friend, I gotta wait a day for them to add me back type. That was the reason why then at the time, when you're resorting to 2004, 2005 technology. Those are some of the issues they foresaw, and that was the avenue that they took. After that, Nintendo decided to build Nintendo Network, and that was their way of going from, if you look over here and you can see the little Nintendo Network ID over there, that was their way from going from DS to 3DS and creating their new third pillar infrastructure. Their goal was to make sure that every console Nintendo made going forward would connect to Nintendo Network, and that's kind of still true, but kind of not at the same time. But their goal was to say every console we make going forward, every product we make going forward, they're going to sign into this network, and everything will be done from there, and we don't have to worry about building a new network every time we release a new console. So they came up with this idea, and so they had to shut down all the GameSpy stuff at some point, because all that Wii stuff had to come down. And then Nintendo decided to build Miiverse, along with all kind of other things for the DS and whatnot. So you had your Mii's, your Mii account, your DS account, all that kind of information was stored locally, and the only time when it was sent to the server, it was only sent to the server as a key, if you will, an encrypted key that it decided to say, "Hey, are you you?" And then your DS would say, "Yes, I am it," or whatever, and then it would notice that session and allow you on. There was no real way of gathering data. It was still segregated, if you will, even though you had a unified account in the Nintendo Network ID, everything was still done separately. And if you remember on Wii U, the same thing happened there as well. So even if somebody got your Nintendo Network ID, they might be able to sign in to Miiverse. They won't be able to see your purchases. They won't be able to take anything from you. Unless they're able to get on the console, steal the entire console, and then go from there. But even then, Nintendo will verify your checksums and then see what key you had or whatnot, and then they be able to say, "Hey, you know what? This console looks like it's been doing some illicit stuff, and we can ban it." So that's kind of where they were going. Nintendo built that network in 2012. That was the successor to the Nintendo Wi-Fi connection. And they partnered with a bunch of people to get this working, man. They partnered with ITV, the people that did TV Tag. I don't know if you guys remember Nintendo TV. That was actually kind of cool to me because I used to watch football games, baseball games, and stuff, and then I could, post stuff to Twitter or Facebook or whatever from this thing, and it would magically pop up. I wouldn't have to deal with another device, watching TV, looking at your phone, trying to post about what you just saw on TV type situation. If I was already sitting there playing the game anyway and I'm looking at it, I could just mark it and post and go from there. But they partnered with them. They partnered with Video and Google at the time. Video, if you're not familiar, Video is the company that came up with the Google Hangouts platform for enterprise. And Google purchased that technology from Video, and that's what they use going forward for Hangouts for enterprise partners, and it ended up being integrated into the Google Hangouts that we were used to seeing for YouTubers as well. They brought the same type of technology forward. So I guess this kind of puts it in a place where, yeah, we know what happened with Wii U and whatnot, and now we're talking about Nintendo Switch Online, right? So with all that happening between Wii U and Switch, Nintendo started over. And people are wondering, like, why did they start over? What did they do? Well, one of the big issues about Wii U was vulnerabilities. So we had a vulnerability called the Twilight Hack, and the team that found the Twilight Hack continued to try to evaluate how to use that same vulnerability in Wii U, and they had some success. But it only worked in the Wii mode on Wii U, and they couldn't really get out of the walled garden to figure out how to get homebrew running on the console until well after the fact. I want to say around 2014, 2015, when we started seeing some real efforts on homebrew. And even then, it stemmed from a vulnerability in the web browser itself for you to be able to load the new homebrew channel. But that being said, everything stemmed from an executable that Nintendo made that gave you access to memory or storage, and then you can dump your own payload on there and then hack the console. So knowing that Nintendo going forward, when they decided to make their new network and their new console or whatnot, a lot of features that people were complaining about are not there for those reasons. That is why you cannot write directly to an SD card on the Switch unless you're using the Photos app. The same thing is this for any other type of external storage that you wanted to use. So if you had if the Switch supported an external hard drive, the only way you would be able to use it would be probably through the Photos app or some other type of storage manager like Nintendo has now for the data cloud backup. You can move your storage around from one console to the other, but only after you do a full wipe. So that is in place to keep people from hacking the console or whatnot, or hacking the network, if you will. Because if you figure out how everything's working on a console, then you can emulate a compromised console and then start pulling data from the network and then compromise the network. So yeah, that's what Nintendo did. They partnered with DNA to make sure that since they weren't, how can I say this, masters of this information technology war with regards to networking, that they could use their expertise on the networking side to get things kicking. And of course, a couple of internal smart guys as far as networking and enterprise networking are still there within Nintendo, but the vast majority of the knowledge management happens with DNA as a partner. So they work a lot of the deals that we saw with regards to the new Amazon framework that we have for all the data that's being stored for Nintendo Switch clients, as well as the new My Nintendo, which is what Nintendo.com is turning into, or Club Nintendo is turning into. And there's just been a lot of changes. So DNA has been practicing since the mobile apps have come out for Nintendo, Miitomo and Super Mario Run and whatnot, and they did individual test cases, and they use Amazon for those as well to store all their data. So the common misconception is Nintendo doesn't know what they're doing. What they're doing, any one person could do. Oh, I could build a VoIP server. I can do this. I can do that. Well, this is a platform that's being sold at a global scale. The online was being launched at a global scale. There's CDNs everywhere from all kind of different partners to make sure that whenever you go online or whatnot, you get the nearest partner with the most data, so your connection is reliable and fast. And people were thinking that somehow Nintendo went cheap on this. Nintendo's been heavily invested in online infrastructure earlier than a lot of people remember. And they spent a lot of money doing enterprise networking technology well before a lot of people remember. I'm not sure if the first Xbox Live was using Amazon Cloud Services. I'm pretty sure they weren't, because Microsoft was trying to build Azure then at the time, and they were a good 10 years behind. So if you think about it, Nintendo kind of pioneered a lot of the stuff that's commonplace with regards to online infrastructure for consoles, especially at the enterprise level on the back end, and how they see things and how they get stuff working as far as network traffic, knowing what services are up and down. If you go to Nintendo.com site, you can clearly see a full map of what's up, what's down, when it went down, what services are going to be happening, when is the next maintenance schedule, and how long the maintenance schedule is going to be. All that data is there. And for the most part, it's been very accurate for a very long time. I want to say even when the Nintendo Wi-Fi connection page was up, that status page was pretty accurate for a long time as well. So yeah, I just don't when we hear to talk about the online and stuff like that, it's just funny to me. So one of the complaints that I hear all the time is about the whole voice chat thing. Well, the voice chat thing is just like the friend adding thing. So you're like, hey, can I add friends or whatnot on Switch? Why can't I do it if it was done already on the 3DS and Wii U and whatnot? Well, Nintendo didn't put it in the firmware. It has to be in the OS itself for you to be able to use it. And lo and behold, it took a firmware update, and now magically you can add friends. The same is true of doing voice chat or video chat or what have you. It has to exist in the OS first, and then you're able to use it on a network infrastructure if it's enabled. But that's a feature that's more software side than it is network side. So trying to grade Nintendo Switch Online for a checkbox of features that should be in the OS is kind of not fair to the service that you're paying for, really. Because the service that you're paying for is an active, always-on connection, so you're able to get the content that you need online, not the features. The features are actually in the OS. So that's just kind of the thing that I wanted to bring forward to the majority of you guys, because there's a lot of misconceptions out there as far as how this OS works. So I had a couple of sites that I kind of went to and kind of looked around and stuff, and I saw a couple of those different takes on how Nintendo does things, and you hear, oh well, the service is so bad, and oh I'm getting lagged out, and a lot of those cases are for games that are peer to peer, or the user themselves, they have a user side error and they have issues. Nintendo, all their consoles are wireless. So unless you know how to do a proper wireless survey and set up a network in your house, where there isn't too much interference, and you have the maximum throughput for the band that you're using, be it AC or A, or even old school G or what have you, you have to make sure that that band in 5 gigahertz or 2.4 gigahertz isn't being interrupted, isn't repeating or bouncing off walls, or what have you, and that you get an accurate connection throughout. I guess from without any interference from yourself to your router and your gateway. You can't say that Nintendo Switch Online is horrible and it lags a lot if we go and we do a network test in your house and you can't even get the maximum throughput out of wireless going to your router. So if you're pulling 1.5 megabits per second up from your wireless because you don't know how to configure it right, is it really the fault of Nintendo Network at that point? Or is it actually the fault of the user if I can look in Wireshark right now and I can get up to 25 megabits per second up? So that's just one of the things that it's kind of frustrating, because how do you explain that to somebody that's arguing with you on Twitter or Google Plus back then at the time, or what have you, or even in a conversation on the podcast or whatever? Like, you're trying to explain, hey, well I paid $60 for this and it was free when I was on. Okay, that's fine, well and good, but it's a different infrastructure. You're paying for a different infrastructure and it's laid out differently. And Nintendo is not Microsoft, is not Sony, is not Steam. So what do you expect? Now, if Nintendo had been doing the exact same thing and they had the exact same network from the beginning, like Xbox Live was, and all they did was just add features as they go, I get it. But Nintendo has started over every single time since they had their third party, if you will, adapter, which is no network at all really, on GameCube, to WeConnect 24 and Nintendo Wi-Fi connection for DS and Wii. And they started all over again for Nintendo Network for 3DS and Wii U. And then they started all over again for Nintendo Network. For Nintendo Switch Online. So that's kind of funny, because Nintendo Network is still used to connect you to Nintendo Switch Online, but that's neither here nor there. So I'll give you the current feature set of what's going on here right now. For $20 a year, this is what you get. You get Save Data Cloud. You get online matchmaking. You get free-to-play games. They stay free, whether you're on or off. NES Online with online multiplayer and a watch lobby. SNES Online with the same features. You get voice chat natively in some games, like some of the free-to-play games, and others via the Switch Online app. We'll talk about that in a minute. You get cross-platform play. You get a universal account, which is My Nintendo, Nintendo Smart 4 on games, and Nintendo Switch. You get a user account and the game's data on more than one Switch console, so you can migrate from one Switch to another. Obviously, you have to delete the data depending on how you move from one to another, or your saves may not go, because you can't have the same saves in the same place, because what's going to happen is they're going to think you're trying to clone the system or cheat in insert game here if you have a clone of your data, and they may end up banning you. You get LAN versus online play, which is, I can't think of the last time that was possible. I don't even think that was possible on the original Halo on Xbox. Maybe Halo 3, I'm thinking. I can't think of a major game that allowed you to have local LAN and then you could play other people online. I know a lot of the couch co-op versus other people online. That happens a lot. But System Link locally versus other people online, I don't think I've seen that in quite a while. Obviously, play Nintendo games online is a big feature for Nintendo Switch Online. That should be the main reason that you would want to subscribe to this service. And we get to the Switch Online app, right? So this thing, I don't know how many people know about this thing, but third parties are using the app. I found out the hard way. I was playing Mortal Kombat 11 online. I'm playing, and somebody invited me to a game, and I'm sitting there getting ready to play, and all of a sudden my phone got a notification. I'm like, why's my phone buzzing? And I go and I look at it, and it says, hey, so-and-so invited you to a game. Click here to open the voice chat lobby. I clicked that, and I was instantly in the lobby, and I'm able to talk to this guy online. We're talking mad shit, over the... And what I don't get is... That is what Nintendo originally envisioned by coming up with this. They knew that this platform was a dedicated games platform, and adding voice on top of it would be extra CPU cycles and an extra process running in the background on top of you running a game. And that would either compromise the quality of the game that you're playing, the speed of the game you're playing online, because if you're chatting online, you're probably playing online, or the quality of the voice chat itself could be compromised, and you start hearing crazy stuff like old school 360 voice chat, which sounded horrible. I don't know if anybody remembers that. It didn't sound good at all. So their goal is, hey, well, let's separate the two. Everybody has apps now. Let's make an app for that. And it's a communication device. You have it with you all the time. And you use Discord and all other kind of shit on this phone anyway. So what's the difference between this automatically popping up and letting you talk to people versus you go through some antiquated system per console to go pull up voice chat and then talk to people online on that console, and then you're tethered to the console with whatever headset you plug into it. Whereas this can be on speakerphone while I sit in my living room scratching my nuts on the couch. Sorry if that offended anybody, but I have anatomy, believe it or not. But yeah, that's the average. The average gamer sits on a couch, believe it or not. Don't let YouTubers that sit here and this is all they do. They sit hugged up in front of their screen with 12 headphones on, trying to talk to people, saying, "Hey, go over here, go over there," or whatnot. That isn't the average gamer. The average PC gamer maybe, but not the average console gamer, because consoles go in living rooms still. There's a lot of space in there, and everybody, for the most part, I did a poll as well, and I put, serious question, no bullshit, is your smartphone in the same room with you while you play video games? I did this poll in December of last year, the 20th of December last year. I got 93 votes on this poll. 95% said yes. 95% of the people that I polled said yes, their console, your console is in the same room with your smartphone. Your smartphone in the same room with you while you're playing video games. Because you're tweeting, you're doing whatever. You're verifying that whatever message that you send on your console, like you take screenshots on the Switch or whatever, and if you take those screenshots, you post them to Twitter or Facebook or whatever, you then go on your phone and you go look to verify that it got there. Everybody does it. Let's not add brand new. Everybody does it. So if that's the case, why not use that device that's already fucking there? And it's dedicated for communication. What else is this for? What is the first purpose of having one of these? It's to communicate. So I get the complaints of saying, well, we should just have choice, and we should just still have this USB cord or this mic dongle hanging out of my console so I can talk to people. Here's my problem with that. This is my problem with it. Right now, how does voice chat work? You're going to have Apple headphones hanging out of here, walking around, doing voice chat? What about USB? You're going to have it hanging out of here? You're going to have a Bluetooth dongle hanging off of here, and then you have a Bluetooth headset on? The same Bluetooth headset you can have sync to this? That's a serious question. So that's just kind of where I'm at right now, and yeah, I understand, I get it. Wii U had it, 3DS had it before, even DS had it before. You could plug in your little dedicated headset and you can get your little walkie-talkie on. But I'm a gamer and a collector, and I'll tell you right now, don't nobody want that shit. I have a box full of headsets and the fucking the little cushion. It's all dissolved and nasty and what have you. Like nobody wants to hold on to that shit. Who wants to go back and play their DS and play online with the fucking headset that came with it and all that trash is hanging off of it? Does anybody still have an original Xbox? And if it was online right now, you could do voice chat on it. The headset will probably stick to your face. Like it's not something that you just want to keep lingering around. And if you buy one of those for every console as they come out, playing online or whatnot, like you're just collecting trash. Why not use something that you already use to communicate every day anyway? Because I mean, when I get a new phone, I have a new communication device to talk on whatever, be it for for Skype, for Steam chat or whatever. Like I'll be able to talk. So just one of those things. But yeah, that actually happened. I did that poll last year, and people were honest about it. So yeah, we went through it. So on that Switch Online app, you get a visual lobby. I wanted to show like the little pictures on here and whatnot, but y'all kind of already know what it looks like, and y'all make enough fun of it as it is. But no, there's a visual lobby on there, so you can see a lobby for each game, for ARMS or Splatoon 2 or what have you. You get notification in the lobbies like I talked about with Mortal Kombat 11. You get voice chat. You get stat tracking for Splatoon and other games that decide to use it. And traditional invites are now available after the firmware update because, as I said, it has existing software before you can go blame the network for not having it. And I mentioned the back end, so you got Amazon S3, Amazon CDN services as well, along with other companies. You got Akamai and a couple other companies that Nintendo purchases as CDN. So no matter where you are in the world, you get the best bang for your buck as far as bandwidth or local cache services, so you don't have to wait forever on downloading stuff from Nintendo Switch Online or eShop or what have you. And I don't know, I'm guessing, the CDN sound confusing to people? Do I need to explain what content delivery network is? All it is just caching for people. Instead of caching data locally on your machine, you're caching network resources or network information geographically closer to you, so it's not that big of a haul as far as downloading bandwidth from, I don't know, 3/4 of the world away. So I figure I don't want to use a lot of acronyms and people are getting confused, but that's what a CDN would be, and Nintendo uses a couple of those depending on where you are in the world to get things done. And that's not a small feat. That's not something you could just read a book and figure out how to make a server with, contrary to popular belief or YouTuber belief. Yeah, so this is a robust service. It's nowhere near as incomplete as people make it out to be. Even the beta itself, launching as a beta in multiple territories, is an undertaking. It's not something that just any one person could do. It's just funny having conversations with people that know nothing about how networking is or how it works or what happens when it leaves your house. It's just one of those situations where you got a lot of people that want to be on their soapbox to complain about stuff, and they have no idea that what they're complaining about has nothing to do with what they're complaining about. Nintendo servers isn't the reason why you're getting a bad connection in a game that's peer to peer. If you're able to match up with somebody, Nintendo servers are okay. When you're in the match, that's between you and the other person. So that's just one of those other things. There's so many misconceptions regarding how all that stuff works. The vast majority of multiplayer games that you're playing in, they aren't hosted on a server. Only the matchmaking is. Once a multiplayer match begins, it's hosted by one console and other consoles or clients to that other console. That is a peer-to-peer session. And it's been that way for a very long time. There are PC games that do the same thing too. Short of playing an MMO, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be playing peer-to-peer. MMOs and other server-based games like Fortnite or whatnot, you're actually logging into a server to play. So, I'll go through a couple of the comments here. I kind of egged you guys for a bit. I'm sorry. Here we go again. Put the fucking Bacardi down. Alright, got it. Let's see here. And no one besides Nintendo and Sega actually use GameCube online service games. Yep, that's pretty much it. Just basically, Sega did 3 games. So, well, Nintendo did 2. I think, was it Kirby Air Ride? And then Mario Kart Double Dash used the adapter, but you couldn't play that online unless somebody created a custom server. Way back in the day, there was a service called Warp Pipe, and they created servers that emulated a LAN connection. So you could play System Link over the internet, which is basically playing online. And that went on for a while, and they supported more than just the GameCube. I think they supported Xbox and PS2 at one point in time before they eventually shut their servers down. So that was a thing, and that was interesting. Let's see. It says it was unfair, but third parties have to dictate the future narrative. Yes, they do all the time. All the time they have excuses as to why they want to go here or go there. And Nintendo's always the whipping boy, so we're always going to say things like, hey, well, Nintendo's kind of behind the times because they're not doing this feature here. Like, I'm pretty sure at some point, some developer's going to be dumb enough to say Nintendo hardware doesn't have ray tracing. When the console is coming, won't have ray tracing either because PC doesn't even have ray tracing right yet. Real-time ray tracing requires you to cast a ray throughout the entire scene to get accurate light. Otherwise, all you're doing is an approximation of what it would look like if you assume what all the lights in the scene look like. It's faked lighting. That's exactly what it is. Ray tracing is actual ray tracing. Ray casts are done everywhere. It is highly computational and requires a shitload of CPU, not GPU, CPU. And they just haven't gotten there yet. CPUs aren't strong enough, and they probably never will be, because as strong as they are now to probably do a whole bunch of ray casts in a scene in 480p, what kind of displays are we using now? 1080p, 4K, 8K. So the requirements exponentially increase as the resolutions increase. We may be in a situation where it may never be realized, actually, not in real time. So we may be watching ray trace stuff that's in render farms for times to come, because technology isn't advancing fast enough. So unless we stop increasing resolution on displays, if we do that, we may be able to catch up. But at the rate we're going right now, movies are being shot in 16K right now. So yeah, it doesn't look like it's going to get any better for ray tracing anytime soon. But that would be one thing that, a developer would use an excuse to say, well, Nintendo isn't doing that because that's a checkbox that Sony said. And while we're talking about that, I haven't gave my impressions on the PlayStation 5 stuff. I kind of talked about it earlier, and I'm really wondering why Sony's trying to get back to load times now, knowing that their console has been the bane of PlayStation console existence since the beginning. The PlayStation 1 was plagued with horrible load times. They were the worst. I think the longest load time I've seen on a Nintendo console Um, it's still probably an N64 game. I think it was a Batman game on N64, and it was really bad for some reason. I don't know why it did loads, but it did loads before each level, and it was bad. Um, but other than that, everything else is instantaneous on that platform. So because you have a fucking cartridge, Sony is claiming that they're going to get back to those kind of roots, but that's not going to happen if you got 100 gig discs, because you don't have 100 gigs worth of RAM in the system, so the whole game can't exist in RAM. So what's going to happen? That means you have to stream that data at some point, and is the bandwidth for your drive equal to the bandwidth of the RAM on the system? No. So that means that bits and pieces are going to have to be streamed from this ultra fast hard drive to the RAM that's even faster than that, and the cache and the CPU that's even faster than that. So it's an eternal struggle, and Nintendo did it the opposite way. They'll just say, we'll program our games per frame. So if you need a visual update or what have you, instead of making this massive world, we'll just say, well, we know in this scene you'll see this. Let's make it so it's the exact property of how much pixel bandwidth we need per frame. And that's how much would exist in RAM for that scene that you're looking at. And so if, as the scene updates, everything else comes out of RAM, and everything else in the new scene, or the new perspective of the new scene, still fits in RAM. And that's how you get games like on Wii U that still run directly off the disc, because they just made the streaming of the game or the loading of the game way slower than it needed to be while the game was actually running. So the game is waiting on an update, but it's not really, because the game is still caching older updates before the disc ever needs to be spun again. And that's just, all that is a change of logic and a change of development, which modern third-party developers and modern Hollywood developers, if you will, they don't want to do that, because they still want to program games like they're programming for PC and then shoehorn it on there to see if it works. And that's not how Nintendo designs games, so you're not going to get good results from them unless you program like they do. And that was a discussion that I was having on Twitter earlier today. Somebody was like, well, these games don't run well on this console, and obviously it's the hardware. Nintendo doesn't seem to have problems. So why is it always an issue when third parties come on there? Well, their games are bigger and better. Are they? Or are they programmed very badly? So, it's just one of those things. I mean, if you look at certain things like, hey, well, this game is obviously more demanding, blah, 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 blah. And then they go talk about stuff like Assassin's Creed. And then I'm just like, Xenoblade Chronicles X existed in 1 gig of RAM. And it is one of the largest game masses to date. I don't know what else you want me to tell you other than it's the implementation of how it's done and not necessarily the hardware itself. At some point, we got to be a little bit smarter, people. And I know that some people do it just to troll because they want to say, hey, my team won, if you will. But there are people really out here believing this shit, and we got to call them on their bullshit. So, anyways, yeah, I was my take on the PS5 is, yeah, it will be a PlayStation 4 plus one. I'm guessing there's going to be exclusive launch games because there's nothing right now. So they got to be getting ready for something. And if the console is launching in 2020, I'm hoping there's at least 3 games that are exclusive to PlayStation 5 that are coming. And they've been working on those for quite a while. I hope so. Because if not, and we're dealing with HDR ports again of PS4 games and PS3 games or what have you, it's not going to get it for me. Not going to get it for me at all. So, and I guess I saw some poll. I think Barron posted this on Facebook, if I'm not mistaken. And it was an IGN poll, and they said, the vast majority of people said backwards compatibility was the main reason that they're interested in a PlayStation 5. And I'm like, then why don't you just buy a PlayStation 4 now and just play that? But, yeah, it is what it is. So, yeah, I'm looking at Let's see. It said I thought 7 Gen started in 2004 with the DS. I'm talking about console generations right now, not handheld not handheld generations. So 7th generation of handhelds is a little bit different, and I have to think about the launch dates of everything to even have that conversation right now. That actually confuses me. But as far as traditional consoles, 2005 with the Xbox 360. And obviously 1999 or 1998 with the Dreamcast for a Gen 6. And then before that was the original PlayStation, if not the Jaguar for a 5th generation. That's what I'm thinking. It's probably Jaguar because 3DO was kind of in between. It was 32 plus 16. So, and since they were considering stuff based off your CPU word count then at that time, and there was confusion as to whether it was the CPU word count or what you have actually programmed in, because a lot of games were still 8 and 16 bit, regardless of what type of CPU they use. With to include the PlayStation 2, even though it had a 128 bit CPU, a lot of the games were still 32 bit. It's just a weird situation in those generations where you called stuff by bits. Like I don't get that marketing. I don't know how that became a thing, but it did. So it was weird then at the time too. And I remember at the time they were like, "Well, you got 16 bits of power." I'm like, the graphics weren't 16 bit because the rasterizer in the Super NES was actually 8 bit. So I don't know what. Yeah, that was kind of weird, but it's just one of those things where marketing takes over and things become a different beast, such as a lot of these nicknames and buzzwords. I'm hearing God rays, like I'm like light cascades, like you saw that in like Super Mario 64. Like I don't know where some of these phrases come from, but okay. Or am I saying Switch is 9th gen? Maybe, just maybe. People say they love the Wi-Fi service. Yeah, I did too. TV for the NBA playoffs. Yes, and a lot of NFL games for me too. Definitely love that. People say they use their gamepad as a universal remote. I still use my gamepad as a universal remote. Great system. Can't beat it. Nintendo TV did not work in the UK. Yes, I bet that sucks. But it didn't last that long anyway, so you didn't really miss out on much. It was cool because it came with a giant universal remote thing that you can spring out, and it had all the different dials and whatnot you could use. It was huge, like you could spin the different channels and whatnot real quick. It was pretty cool. That was one of the things I liked about it, and I hate that went away when Nintendo TV service went away. I wish they would have just baked that in to the TV remote thing that was built into the Wii U gamepad, but I think that thing didn't have enough memory to store it all. Like a couple of kilobytes or whatever could fit on that thing. Uh, isn't that a reason why Netflix isn't here yet? I mean, if Netflix actually dropped the TV app onto the Switch like Netflix, you would think it would work and not on the mobile app in a hackable way. I have to read that question again. I'm not really. If Netflix actually dropped the TV app on the Switch like Netflix, you would think it would work and not the mobile app. Oh, okay. So, is it worthwhile to even do it? Well, I don't see why not. It should work, and then that will be one of those things where it's just be another screen to view Netflix on. As far as the mobile app on being able to do Netflix on the Switch versus your phone, which your phone is already going to be there anyway. Like I said, it'd just be another screen. Um, but considering there's so many screens Netflix is already on, I don't really see a true need for Netflix to be on there. I really think at this point now it would just be another Me Too thing to just say all the other consoles have Netflix. I'm like, well, that's fine, well and good, but everything under the sun has Netflix on it. If you don't have a way to get Netflix on every TV in your house at this point, something's wrong. And if you don't have a way to watch Netflix mobilely without a TV, something's wrong. I mean, in 2019, you can't figure that out. Not having Netflix on Switch is probably the least of your problems. But Nintendo being trendsetters and pioneers, yes, like starting the ninth generation of consoles. Yeah, I'm gonna stir that fucking pot. Gonna do it. People talk about Switch Wi-Fi being slow. My 5 gigahertz is actually faster sometimes. My Ethernet connection on Switch. Now, while mine isn't, it's only a fraction of my local bandwidth on Switch, because my max wireless bandwidth is around 300, maybe 400 megabits per second down. On Switch is already capped anyway at 25 megabits per second either way. So for those that don't know, at the WAN level, when you try to connect to Nintendo Switch Online, even if you pretend to be a Nintendo Switch and you're actually a computer, when you try to pull requests from eShop, from Nintendo Switch Online servers or whatever, and you just do a any type of ping test or whatever, or try to pull a bandwidth test, you're only going to get around 50 megabits per second total in both directions. So 25 up, 25 down. Some people got a little bit over 25 megabits per second. There's some rumors of people getting around 30, 35. But usually about 25 each way is the most you can get on that console. And I'm guessing that's for bandwidth limitations and just making sure that there's no outages or no one person pulling way too much bandwidth and other people are not able to enjoy the service because you got another person that's killing a server by pulling all the bandwidth from it. That may be a quota that they have in place at the enterprise level that is stopping that. That's all I could really tell from my scans on the network, that I just can't really get more than 25 up or down from the console or from me emulating one. So, but as far as the wireless in the house, yeah, my wireless is typically faster than most people's wired internet in my area. But there are a lot of people that have 4 to 10 gigabit internet coming, like they have fiber and whatnot in California and other different test markets and whatnot that is really, really fast. So 10 gigabit should be a new thing. That should be a faster wireless interface coming soon for stuff like that. So not that Nintendo Switch is going to use it, and Nintendo Switch Online is not going to use it at all. Like, your cap is going to be the service. It's not going to be the wireless connection on your Switch. And the radio on the Nintendo Switch gets you around 450 megabits per second. That's about the max throughput you can get from the radio on that system. So, but obviously that's going to be limited to whatever the Switch connects to and what the firmware allows it to do. So that's neither here nor there. But what I've been able to get is on average about 25 up, 25 down from that console. So every system has a new ecosystem. Yes, this is true. New firmware for each new console, so people don't hack them, so they can sell games at a profit. Just the way it works. So the game invite option under your profile is just for the app. Nope. You can do that in the firmware itself. You can invite people, or if you mean like for game invites for like online, like doing a game invite, yeah, in the app. But then once you're inside of the game and you join a game with somebody, it'll send a notification in Mortal Kombat 11 to say, hey, you're about to join a session with this person. Turn on voice chat. So that's what I end up getting. So y'all excuse me here, but I'm trying to. Jesus, there's a lot of chat here. Appreciate you guys. It's not like the other console, so it's automatically bad. That's a hilarious comment there. Ray01X. He said, I never understood the logic behind to take pictures. I guess I missed that conversation. People always say Nintendo is behind online, but fail to realize that Famicom and Super Famicom had network functionality. Yes, they've been doing it from the beginning. You were fucking printing like and faxing and stuff from the original Famicom in Japan. Like you were doing online banking on the Famicom, which is just crazy. Like they were way ahead of it. And they saw that some things were going to cost way more than others, and some things you wouldn't be able to monetize or sell effectively. So Nintendo's like, well, we'll just stay out of that other stuff. It says, hey, ShadowCasts, have you experienced that weird eShop bug that makes the eShop restart when trying to access it? It works fine afterwards, but it's pretty annoying. No, the closest I get to is whenever like new content for like Smash comes out. Like when Banjo came out, eShop was like crawling. So I signed in, and I got a blank screen for a while, and the music was playing, and it eventually kicked up, and it got the music cut, the intro music. It stopped, and then you just see not the music. I can't. The jingle that plays when you sign into eShop. The little whatever that music is or whatever, it kept repeating because it couldn't connect. So, and then as soon as it was able to connect or whatever, then I got my no sound and I was able to shop around or whatever. But it did that for a little bit and then I was good. But you're talking about Nintendo servers getting hit pretty hard at night trying to download Banjo. And I think it happened maybe once or twice when Joker came out as well. But that's the closest I've seen to having a true outage for eShop. Metal Mint, they'll probably try to push that as a next gen feature. Man, try to push everything as a next gen feature. That's the way it works. Then Sony said PS5 is going to have ray tracing. Yes, they did, but it's not real ray tracing. As I explained before, it is an approximation of what ray tracing is. If you look at, I have to put the article up here, but there's a detailed article that explains what the ray tracing implementation is on NVIDIA and AMD chipsets, what they're labeling as ray tracing. And this is for PCs we're talking about. So PC gaming ray tracing is an approximation. It's not real. They're not casting rays every scene. And if Mark Cerny was honest with you, he would tell you the exact same thing. So, top donation, thank you. I appreciate it. My screen is really jacked up right now, so I can't really see details here. Oh, Jeffrey Burns, appreciate it. Thank you. That's $3.98. Good stuff. I don't know if you leaving a comment or not. I didn't really see one. Okay. So, let's see here what I got here. Sony is going with a streaming platform. You know, that's an interesting question because, you know, since Microsoft they have a version of the Scarlet that will be streaming only. You figure Sony would try to do it too. Why not? So they can try to sell to people that don't want to buy physical games. And then they know they have platforms they can directly cater to and get all of the money. But the only thing about that is if those things start selling really well, GameStop is going to be some type of way. Not that they have any choice because they're about damn near bankrupt as it is. But they're going to be some type of way about dealing with Microsoft and Sony with regards to selling games and whatnot, because they would be basically cut out as middlemen. So, release date for Switch Pro, please. December 32nd. 19 Neverland, or a quarter to Nebuary is what I would say. The successor to the Switch, 2021, 2022. Possibly fall, but Nintendo could pull damn wild hair out their ass and do March like they did for a Switch. So, who knows? They do anything now. I mean, I don't think Nintendo has ever launched a console in the spring before. Not a home console, anyway. We need better programmers, LOL. Yes, we do. Because, I mean, we hear all the time that Switch can't run this game, Switch can't run that game. And then you look, and then the base PS4 game was developed by 200 people, and that was the lead platform. Then you had 100 people ported to Xbox One, and you had like 100 people ported to Xbox One X, so it can be extremely 4K. And then the Switch version was done by 3 people, and it had 6 months to do it. So, and then you're like, oh well, it's not how, and the performance and 30 frames per second, and oh my god, like, man, get the fuck out of here, man. If if you have a PlayStation 5 version or a PlayStation 4 version, and only 6 people developed it, and Switch was the lead platform, and the U port from Switch to PS4, chances are the PS4 version is gonna have issues. I mean, that's just life. That's the way that it works. The lead platform always gets the best deal. That's just the way it works. People saying I'll just wait a few years to get a PS5. Well, I can't do that. I gotta have everything. I got to. Even if it's not worth it, all it takes is one game that I can't play on PS4, and I gotta have it. Chock full of sports and FPS ports, just like PS3, PS4. Typically, yes. Digital Age Gaming, I had a Panasonic 3DO. Yes, that was good times. Played Super Turbo on there. Dateless Encounter. PS4 hardware, man, do the math like the Atari Jaguar. Yeah, we're going to add all the bits. That's the way that works. Did you hear about Digital Foundry thoughts on CRT monitors on modern games? No, I didn't look into that at all. They're trying to play modern games on CRTs, and that sounds interesting. I'll look into it. With PS5 coming, PS4 games are going to get cheaper. They're already cheap now. When the game launches at $60, wait 6 months. Even first party games at this point. I mean, watch Amazon, watch Best Buy. I mean, it's just the way it is. Do I believe these so-called Switch program? Okay, am I going to continue to get these questions? This is hilarious. Let's put it this way. I think I said this on Twitter already. It would not surprise me if the employee in question that leaked information on 4chan that all these people are reporting on ends up being Super Metal Dave. I wouldn't be surprised. Oh yeah, before you go, Rise Up. Oh, we talking mad shit. Talking about my Falcons. Yeah, I had to take my jersey off. I had my jersey on earlier today, but since I have a red ass podcast, I couldn't wear it. But yeah, Rise Up. They having a Grim Reaper season apparently. I don't have Netflix on all my TVs. Can't stream off of CRT. Yeah, it would probably be kind of weird. Well, no, you could stream off the Wii. I use Wii on CRT. Last I understood about Generations was the date of release, not the tech. So, and that's. I wanted to make a podcast about that too, but gaming press has helped build that big ass misconception, and it's bullshit. They started to talk about Generations in different ways and start to cook the doubt in your mind, so you start thinking about console generations as if power had something to do with it. I mean, if that was the case, back in the Atari days, you had versions of Ataris that were actually computers. So you're talking about a third generation console because it launched around the time that the original Atari 2600 launched. And you talk about these 5800 and these STs or whatnot, which on paper were far more superior than stuff you would see in the fourth and fifth generation. Well, at least the fourth generation anyway. So how can you then say what generation they belong to? They all played Atari games, and they all played 2600 games, and there were some games that played on those STs that you obviously couldn't play on the 2600 because it was vastly superior hardware. But the time that they came out determined their generation. So it's kind of, I don't know why people come up with that bullshit. So it just makes no sense. Cyberpunk, Death, gotta be coming to Switch. Money talks. Same thing about Doom. You get good press about Doom. People playing Doom, people talking about Doom, whatever on Switch. Then you get the sequel. So, and I'm pretty sure the next Mortal Kombat will be coming on Nintendo hardware as well, because Mortal Kombat 11, there's a lot of good word out there for how well that version did. So, I mean, money talks all the time. Did I hear Super Turbo? Yo, yes, Super Turbo is on 3DO. That's good stuff. Sony wants their first party games to be like Nintendo first party games, holding their price. Yeah, if they could, they would. That's the whole thing. So you got people out here that are complaining about Nintendo games holding value. Why the fuck would you do that? So you're mad because, again, they won't do something like Microsoft and Sony do. Well, their first party games aren't $20 yet. Okay. Do you really think that if Sony could keep their games at $60, they would still make them 20? They do that shit because they have to. The games ain't selling no more, so they push it at 20. Like, that's just supply and demand. Nintendo, that's just one of those things where they'll just produce less of them and still sell them at $60 and still make a profit. Like, I mean, you got like, I'm pretty sure the price ain't went down on these yet. It might be $50 now, but you're talking about a console that's not even around anymore. And you see the games in Walmart or wherever, blah, 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 and they're still $50, $60. And every time they sell one, because they will sell one, that's a big chunk of profit for Nintendo. Who we got here? Got... Hey, Super Metal Dave said he is going to speak that shit into existence. Hey, you gotta love it, man. That's, the truest form of confirmation bias there. Instead of, researching the thing and see if it's possible, you just say, it's possible. Then you go find stuff to fit your case. Which is that's just ridiculous to me. Epsilon Nate says, what game would you like to see return to consoles? I wouldn't mind seeing Eternal Darkness or Legacy of Kain. Yeah, so the only problem with that is I really don't think those games happen without Dennis Diet. So unless some really good port team comes back for legacy purposes, kind of like Inti Creates did with the Mega Man games, the Mega Man 8 and 9 or 9 and 10. I'm sorry. If they decide they want to go back and do like 3D games of Eternal Darkness and Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver, what have you, or Soul Reaver 2, that would be the only way I see that happening. Getting the original team to come back and make those, yeah, that dude is poison now. Like every project he touches just goes to shit at this point. Next gen being used as a buzzword probably contributed also. Yes, we were hearing next gen 3 years after 360 and PS3 came out. They're just like, well, the next gen consoles, and they were talking like we wasn't part of the next generation. You're in the same fucking generation. So they were coming up with different ways to say it, and then after 360 and PS3 have been old as fuck, and then we outsold all of them. Obviously, that's not a good thing for them to talk about, so they try not to talk about it at all. So what they do is they call them the HD consoles or the HD twins. And then I listened to a podcast today from IGN, and these motherfuckers are still calling them the HD consoles, and Switch is HD, Wii U is HD. Like, what the fuck are we talking about here? But that's just Gaming Press adding to the fucking poisonous well that is gaming fuckery. So people have fucked up thoughts in their head, and as a hive mind, they collect bullshit and they just think about it together. They just say, hey, this dumbass thought. Don't you have this dumbass thought too? Yes. Let's never research it and let's all just say that's real. It doesn't make any fucking sense, man. But said they were trying to say the Wii U was in between. Yeah, that's it. And that affected the Wii U entry on Wikipedia. Well, it didn't affect Wii U, it affected Switch. because Wii U is clearly listed as 8th generation, and then you look underneath it, and it says successor Switch, and then you go click on Switch, and you look at it, and it just says it's an 8th generation console. Wait, what? But it's a successor to Wii U. But then if you go look at the notes for Switch and how they determined that it was 8th generation, there's a discussion page on why they determined the wiki fact determined it as next generation. And it was because they were trying to say that Wii U was 7th generation. But then they didn't go back to Wii U and call it a 7th generation console. They called it 8th gen. So which one is it? Even Wikipedia can't even fucking get it right because they got all this marketing bullshit from IGN or whatever. And they go back and forth and just say, well, it can't really be because saying Nintendo start 9th gen sounds wrong. And if PlayStation 5 comes out as a 9th generation piece of hardware, and then right after that Nintendo develops 10th generation hardware, that sounds weird. No, it sounds like Nintendo makes consoles every 4 to 6 years, and the other two don't. Like, that's not hard to figure out. They decided to say, in 2007, 2008, 2009, to say, hey, we want our console generations to be 7 to 8 years now. Nintendo's like, not my problem. We still doing 4 to 6. I mean, what else is there to say? We need Killer Instinct on Switch. That would be cool. Metal Mint knows that I would love that. But now I think about it though, I don't know how much I would play it on Switch. Because there are other games I need to play, and if I start playing Killer, you would never see me play anything else. You thought my hours in Xenoblade were bad. I want another Blitz to lead. Yeah, that was one of the arcade games. Well, Blitz 99 was one of the arcade games I wanted to list on this Twitter post that was talking about if you started your own arcade, what 5 games you start with. I think Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles beat out Blitz for that list for me. Akuma says, be more Akuma anyway. Nintendo games, you have to typically wait for Black Friday for the sales. Breath of the Wild was around $35. Yeah, for Black Friday. Yeah, depending. But even then, like I'm not really carrying in because there's even better deals for other platforms then. Like I think Horizon Zero Dawn was like $10 or some shit like that. Like you can't. Yeah, you might be able to catch a sale here and there for Nintendo stuff, but it's gonna be nothing like these other platforms, man. They just fucking give their games away. So, hope I sign up for final round. Yes, I definitely will be signing up. So I have the page bookmarked on my phone. I need to go ahead and get it done. I know I missed the discount deadline, but I'll be getting in there. You'll get to meet up to me and we'll play each other Sprite Week, man. You can kick my ass in Super Turbo again. Shout out to the 32 P's watching. Yes. Y'all keep thumbs up and do all that other kind of stuff. And I appreciate people donate to the stream or whatever. This is my first attempt at doing this, so if I missed anybody, just let me know. Somebody said it seems like people are trying to argue the Wii U to Switch like the old argument of Atari 2600 to 5200. That's crazy. That's just a crazy thought process. It said, what do you think? Why do you think GTA games haven't been on the Nintendo system, specifically GTA 5 on Switch or Wii U? Business. Well, not in this case, it's business and personal fuckery. If anybody remembers the history of DMA Design, who became Rockstar North or what have you, Nintendo hired them for a couple of projects on the Nintendo 64. And one of those projects ended up being Nintendo pulled out as far as funding of the project midway, and that kind of pissed DMA off. So they decided to say, fuck you, literally. And they started doing other projects for other platforms, and they haven't looked back since. that's what happened with that. I can look up the whole little thing here because that is an interesting who done it type mystery. But I can pull that one up and we can talk about that. So the Rockstar and Nintendo relationship is that's a big deal. And so what's so funny is they kind of flirt with it because you get stuff like Smuggler's Run on GameCube, you get Bully or whatever, or just something weird like that on a Nintendo platform here or there to just say, hey, we're almost there. Here's LA Noire. Here's Rockstar's table tennis, and no GTA for you. That's just kind of how it's been, and it's never been a technical thing because Vice City is on the PS2. And that console was nowhere near as capable as GameCube, let alone Wii with more RAM or Wii U being HD. So, yeah, it is what it is. Somebody posted, said Rockstar Games responsible for destroying Nintendo's dominance. I'm pretty sure they would be super dominant if there was still Grand Theft Auto on top of on Nintendo consoles. So I'm trying to see DMA design. What was the name of that N64 game they did? I know they did. I think it was Space Station, Silicon Valley, and Body Harvest. I'm thinking it was. But that was just one of those situations where I'll pull it up because I wanted to kind of read you guys the whole story so you can see it. So the Nintendo arrangement and acquisition. So it's 94 to 2001. DMA signed with Nintendo to publish Unirally in 1994. Then they tried to move on to 3DO, but obviously that was going to die. DMA made Body Harvest for N64, and it was supposed to be a launch game for Nintendo 64, and it got several delays because Nintendo had issues with the content in Body Harvest. So that kind of had them mad because they scrapped the game. So they had to publish on their own, and then the game didn't come out until 1998. So that's kind of where some of the hating came from. Thank you for coming in, Digital Age Gaming. Appreciate it. We'll see you. WWE True Football. Gotta read the game of Filthy Vega. Yeah, I gotta play Filthy Vega. That's just how I do it. So, especially since I can't be a Shoto depending on how the joystick works in Super Turbo. In the arcade, I'm okay. It's just trying to play on the fight stick and on the Street Fighter 20 collection, it just doesn't work at all. I don't know if it's some kind of old coding or maybe just the mapping to the controllers does not work one-to-one the way it used to back in the day. But the old joysticks I used to play on, the old arcade sticks I used to play on for actual Super Turbo, I had no problems doing any commands. So I don't know. Alright guys, so I don't see any other questions or comments. If you guys have anything, let me know here and I'll address them real quick. But that's kind of where we are, man. Nintendo Switch Online, you got just look at this background here. Look at all these companies up here. This is what Nintendo invested in to make what you're using right now possible. And to say that, hey, it's not worth your $20 a year, you got nothing coming. And I get it. Like I said before, I know other people have their opinion because of other reasons, saying, hey, well, Nintendo done it before and all these other things, but they rebuilt the entire network from scratch for the third time. I mean, what do you expect them to do? So I got other people talking about generations saying data release. Yeah, generations is just it shouldn't even be a conversation, man. I'll do another podcast. We'll do a panel because we'll have Discord and stuff working in. I'll just have to get that working and then we'll work that one out. But yeah, that's where it is. Console generations are defined by time. Period. I mean, the word generation means successor or a time period of things living or existing. That's literally what that is. So, thoughts on new Guilty Gear? I like it because I can see stuff. Old school Guilty Gear, I can't tell what the fuck's going on. So, I'm gonna like that. I'm gonna try it. And somebody said, "What do I think Nintendo next will look like? Like their next console?" Oh, he retracted. I guess because everybody else was talking about Switch 2. That's fine. But yeah, Switch 2, I wouldn't even call it Switch 2 because it might not even be a Switch. It could just be dedicated Nintendo hardware for 10th generation. It's going to be just new hardware. And they're working on it right now as we speak. Because Nintendo always works on the next generation of hardware as soon as they launch the previous one. As soon as Wii U came out, they started doing R&D for Switch. Just as they had two versions of what Wii would be right after they started working on GameCube. Right around the time when Wii was getting ready to launch, they had a prototype which would have been an HD version, as confirmed by Factor 5. They let it slip when they did an interview with IGN some years back. And if you guys go back and y'all listen to Nintendo Voice Chat for maybe 3 or 4 years ago, if you go listen to that, Julian Egerbrecht is on there, and he talked about how there was a prototype for a HD Wii. Way back then, way back in 2007. So, actually 2005, because it was before the console launched, so that's just crazy. Metal Mid said the NX is coming. Next, what will the next console look like? That's tough. There's no way to know. It's going to depend on where Nintendo wants to steer the market. Do they want to continue taking advantage of what Switch is doing? Because Switch is the evolution of what Wii U was. So, do they want to do that, or do they want to go back the other way and get back into the living room again? That's going to depend. And how important is it for them to keep up with the Joneses? We know it's important for gamers and quote-unquote fans out there, but how important is it for Nintendo to say, you know what, we're tired of not getting the same type of games that these other platforms are getting for insert excuse here. So let's get rid of all the excuses and see if they still port the games. As we're seeing with Switch, they will for money. But as we saw with Wii U, they won't for specs. So even if the specs are there, they're not porting it because they're thinking they're not getting their fucking money back. So, like, to the point where we saw Madden on Wii U, and they're like, the next year, we're good. We're out. It's not possible no more. Like, that's kind of where we are. It's all business. So, you hear these excuses, and you hear fanboys on the internet say, well, this isn't possible and that isn't possible. It is 2019. All game engines are scalable. Anything can go anywhere. If it can be ported to a phone, you know it can be ported to Switch. If there are lower resolution versions of PC games or PC ports of games, it is definitely possible on Switch. So regardless of what resolution it is or whatever, like, the game will be able to run. Saying something can't run, period, assumes a lot of technical stuff is happening in the background that a lot of people don't understand. So, let's see what it says. Have I noticed the difference between Super Mario Bros. U and Deluxe? I'm pretty sure I know it's controlled it. No, I haven't played it yet. I need to check it out. Rick Sly says, I never liked numbered console gen terms. That always seemed to be a means of obfuscating what came out when. Yeah. So, yeah, it should be more, instead of saying this generation of consoles, just say that console. And then people were like, yeah, because that came out around this time type situation. Instead of just saying, oh, well, this console is kind of, it's 4th gen. It's not really, no, motherfucker, that console existed and it came out at this time. So, excuse my French. But thank you guys. Likes up. Likes up. Gaming Ground said, what do you think Nintendo would do with their next controller, seeing as they mentioned making the next one would be the new standard? That means they're hard at work on it then, if that's the case. I wonder if they're still trying to figure out a way to make VR and motion tracking and sensory work. So, like a way to use, like how have your heartbeat or whatever detected by the game, so it's able to react and do different things. Like I've played a couple of arcade games where you hold the little metal pieces or whatever, and it reads your palm, and therefore the game will either ratchet up in difficulty or ratchet down in difficulty depending on how your pulse rate is. Nintendo could still be working on the vitality sensor for something crazy like that. Like, they're the company that would do it. So that would be interesting to see if they do something of that effect and put it inside of a controller. That would probably be the easiest way to do it, instead of coming up with some type of dongle or accessory. It'd probably be better if it was built into the controller. So he said, I always call things by naming one of the consoles that came out at a time, like the NES, N64, PS2. Much easier to get a grasp what we're talking about. Yeah, you're right. That's the way it should do. Yeah. He said, oh, that's a good point. Sprite Weeman said, I miss the days where they would port a super popular game like MK1, regardless of the system, like Game Boy, Game Gear, etc. Yes. So you say things like, "Oh well, this console can't run Mortal Kombat 1," and you're like, "They ported Mortal Kombat 1 to Game Gear." What does that tell you? That means that it's all about staff, technology, and people understanding the technology. So if you knew how to program for the Game Gear, you're able to make at least some type of implementation of a fighting game on that system, and they did. Like, Sonic the Hedgehog was ported to the Master System. It was kind of wonky, but you could play it. So, Epsilon Nate, quick question. I guess it means why. Why don't you go on Spawncast? You clearly know what's going on. You can obviously school these yes men. I think that's a question for Spawnwave. Well, yeah, definitely Spawnwave. I know who wouldn't answer that question at all. I know Dreamcast guy would not have an opinion one way or the other, I don't think. But nah. Desalona said, I miss the days games that you fully configure your controls as replayability. Yeah, depending on the type of game. Definitely a lot of yes men on the podcast, because you'll get a lot of when people don't know what they're talking about. So John will talk about a couple things and people will like, well, I don't know nothing about that, so let me just do this. Like, sometimes I'll be on Players' podcast and they'll talk about a game. I have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. They're talking about a game. I don't know what they're talking about. Like, man, I'm like, what game y'all talking about? And I'm like, I don't know what that is. What is this? They're like, you don't know about this game? Nah. Instead of me just sitting there going, like, why do that? And it's just weird to me. If you don't know what's going on, like, ask a question. Don't sit there and just be in space and pretending to know. And if you don't know, like, learn. So, just look at the ring controller thing. Yeah, for the Switch. Yeah, I need to investigate that thing anyway. I do need to investigate that. But yeah. All right, I got any more? I got about another maybe 10 minutes here, and then I gotta call it a night. Go home and be a family man. Oh wait, I'm at home. Oh wait, I am a family man. But anyway, yeah, that's just what I have to do next. But I hope you guys like kind of retain some of the information for Switch Online at least, because that's just one of those things. I would have liked to have made a video on Switch Online, period, but that would have taken so long and so much editing. I've got about 30 pages worth of documentations and notes just for all this crap, all the data that I went through to pull. So, and there's links everywhere, and there's different stories and whatnot talking about how Nintendo did these deals and how they got the work in to deal with video and Amazon and whatnot to get different things done for different networking infrastructure they were trying to do. So it's just bewildering to me. So I figured I would do it live that way because that'd be easier to do, and if you had any specific questions, I can address those. So I thought that was better than doing a fucking 40-minute long video that would take shit 2-3 days for me to edit and complete. And Final Cut getting mad at me and erasing shit, and I have to start all over. So it's just I want to stick to videos that I upload being a little bit shorter. Because the last hour-long video that I did not too long ago, that almost stole my soul. So this is a little bit easier for me to do. So if that means that I'll get more content out this way, then this is what I'll do. Desalona said, am I into Pokemon games? But not currently, no. So I want to look into the other Pokemon games that are going to be coming. Sword and Shield is interesting, so I'll look into that and see what I can do. But I'm a little bit more old school, so I played old school Red and Blue, and I haven't really jumped it back in since. Watched the anime a little bit of the US TV show, and obviously Smash Bros. I know who the characters are, so it's just one of those things I fell out of, and I feel real bad about it, but whatever. I'll hop back into it. It's an RPG. But it's one of those things where I know how deep I would get into it and how much time I would lose versus playing more games. I would rather play a new Xenoblade game when I know how that game's going to go than a new Pokemon game when I know I'm kind of, not to be reductive about the game, but I'll be doing the same thing because I'll be doing a lot of battling and trying to collect the Pokemon that I need for my team and just moving about trying to battle people for that. And that'll be a big time sink. Not that Xenoblade isn't a time sink, but it's a different experience. Curry on rice. Y'all crazy. That was the big meme for Player Essence Podcast anyway. Chances of seeing Resident Evil 7 or 2 remake on Switch. Well, 7 is on Switch right now. It works in Japan, it just doesn't work here. It is being streamed over the network instead of being played. It can be played on a console, I would imagine, but how long would that take for them to develop? And by that time, they could have made a new Resident Evil game. Make an Archimedes style video on Switch Online. Ooh, that's gonna take a long time. And there'll be a lot of editing, and Archimedes he takes those shapes and act like that's. So what I would probably have to do is make that in Keynote and then convert that into a video and add it that way. That would take a real long time. But I could do it. Yeah, I probably have, if I could borrow some tips from Mr. T and how he throws so many fucking videos up dealing Final Cut every day. I'm gonna have to talk to him for a little bit and figure out how to do it. I can barely get this stream going right now, so. But that's about it, guys. I'm gonna go ahead and call it a day, if you will. Rise up. I'm still mad about that shit. But as I always say, do you play games to have fun or to impress other people? Yeah.